What's the origin story of the UFC as it is today, as you have created it, and you and Lorenzo and Fertitta Brothers built it?
It started with John Lewis, and seeing him. Frank and I were out one night at the Hard Rock, and John Lewis was there, and he's like, "Oh, that's that Ultimate Fighting guy," and I was like, "I know him," and Frank's like, "I've always wanted to learn ground fighting," and I said, "Yeah, I'm interested in it too." So we went over, we talked to John Lewis, and we made an appointment to wrestle with him on Monday.
Yeah.
And we told Lorenzo, and Lorenzo came with us, and that was the beginning of the end. I mean, we started doing jiu-jitsu and started to meet a lot of the fighters. And we were like, at the time there was a stigma attached to the sport that these guys were, despicable, disgusting human beings, but which was the furthest thing from the truth. These kids had all gone to college, had college degrees, most of them, because they wrestled in college. And we started to meet some, we loved the different stories. You had Chuck Liddell, who, had this mohawk, looks like an axe murderer, and but graduated from Cal Poly, with honors in accounting,
Yeah.
Then you had Matt Hughes, who was this farm boy, literally lived on a farm. And so there were all these cool stories with all these good people that weren't what people thought they were. And Lorenzo and I always felt like there's something here that if this thing was done the right way, this could be big. And what was crazy was I was in a contract negotiation with Bob Meyerowitz, the old owner of the UFC, over Tito's contract, and Chuck Liddell. They didn't even want Chuck Liddell in the UFC.
Wow.
I was trying to get Chuck in the UFC, and they didn't even want him.
Wow.
And we got into this contract dispute over Tito's contract, and Bob Meyerowitz said, "You know what? There is no more money, okay? I don't even know if I'll even be able to put on one more event." And he flipped out. When we hung up the phone, I literally picked up the phone and called Lorenzo, and I said, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Bob Meyerowitz, the owner of the UFC. I think they're in trouble, and I think we could buy it, and I think we should. You should reach out to him." So Lorenzo called Meyerowitz, and I don't know how, I don't remember the timeline, but within the next 2 months, we ended up owning the UFC for $2 million.
And you've said that you fought a lot of battles during that time.
Oh, I mean, the early days of building this company and building the sport, it was the wild, wild west, man. It was crazy back then. Yeah, I was literally at war every day with all different types of people. Plus, traditionally, there's bad people that are involved in fighting, man. There's lots of bad people. And we had to sift our way through that for the first 7-8 years.
So in general, there's corruption, the people kind of steal money. They're thinking just about themselves, not the bigger business.
Well, let me tell you about this. I mean, I want to say it was the Netherlands. I don't remember exactly where. It could have been Amsterdam. I mean, MMA promoters were car bombing each other, and then the other guy shot up the other guy's house with machine guns, and that's the kind of shit that was going on.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story. So Affliction, do you remember Affliction?
Yeah.
So there was a guy. I want to say his name was Todd Beard or something like that. This guy used to text me every day when they started their MMA thing, telling me he was going to kill me.
Legitimately
going to kill me.
Yeah.
"You punk motherfucker. Yeah. I'm going to fucking kill you. You don't understand who I am and what I've done and this and that." I think this guy would get drunk or do drugs every night or whatever his deal was. This guy would call me, text me, and threaten my life every day. I used to go, "Fuck you." And this
you
and
said
that.
Fuck you.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
But this is the type of shit that went on in the early days. This guy who was one of the owners of Affliction was one of the, not a good human. Let's put it that way.
What about the business side of it? It's tough to make money in this business.
Yeah, we weren't making money. So, trying to build this thing, corrupt the guys that work for In Demand pay-per-view at the time, were not good dudes, and that thing was a fucking total monopoly. God, I wish I could remember his name right now. He used to run In Demand, and he was a fucking bad guy. Then he comes over and starts running DirecTV, who we always had a great relationship with. Mm-hmm. And he's the reason we left DirecTV and said, "Fuck it, we'll just go streaming then." Yeah, I don't remember his name. I'd have to ask Lorenzo.
So in general, just in this whole space, there's a lot of
Yeah, it's just
shady people.
everybody you deal with is you're dealing with a lot of different forces, and your hands are in a lot of different businesses. From the venue business to the merchandise business to the video game business, the pay-per-view business. The list goes on and on of all the different types of the production business of all these different. When I first started this, we had a production team that was the production team that was in it before we bought it. So there was this incident with Phil Baroni where Phil Baroni, we did an interview with him, and Baroni flips out in the interview when they're interviewing him and goes crazy. And I thought it was awesome. So I'm like,
Yeah.
we're going to leave this in. We're going to leave this interview in. And the production guys were arguing with me. They're like, we can't leave this in. This is totally unprofessional. And I said, I don't give a shit. This is what we're doing. We're going to do this and clip it like this and do it like that. We're sitting in the venue that night. And I lean over to Lorenzo because the fight's coming up. I go, wait till you see this fucking interview with Baroni. They didn't fucking do it. They didn't do it. These guys were guys that were freelance guys that worked for Showtime at the time or something like that.
Mess.
I literally got up from my fucking seat, went back there, kicked the fucking door of the truck open. And I said, you motherfuckers, you ever do that again and I'll fire every fucking one of you. Let's just put it this way. I ended up firing every one of them anyway and going with a whole new crew. But these were the type of things that early on, there's so much stuff. I mean, I could sit here for fucking 3 days and walk you through all the stuff that used to go on back in those days. But it was the Wild Wild West, man.
But how'd you know how to deal with all this mess? First of all, to fire people that aren't doing a good job, all that. Like how to be a leader, how to be
Well, that's the thing too. I mean,
business leader.
Getting in the early days, there was 2 employees, me and another girl that worked for me for my company before I started doing this. And then we slowly started to bring people on and you start to build a team. And then before you know it, we had 10 people. I mean, we used to do our Christmas parties back then too. There'd be 8 to 10 people at our Christmas party, but a lot of it is you learn as you go. You know what me and the Fertitas knew about production when we bought this UFC? We had I want to say we had 2 or 3 weeks to pull off an event. This is what we knew about production.
Really?
Jack shit. So we had to dive in and we had to learn it. We had to figure it out. And we knew what we wanted. We knew what we liked. We knew what we were looking for. It's just about building a good team. And I think that's one of the things, if you want to talk about what I've accomplished in the last, 25 years of my life, I've been really good at building teams.
Already have a vision of what you want the final thing to look like and then build a team that can bring that to life.
100%. You have to have the vision. Without the vision, there's nothing. So that's sort of what I do. I am the vision part of this thing. We're going to open a PI in Mexico. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and then you build the team to come in and help execute.